Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the stars through the main window. His ship had been exploring space for 3 months now, and they had found nothing but empty worlds and dead rocks. The crew was getting tired, but Jake knew they had to keep looking for new places where humans could live. PR. Lisa Carter walked up to him with her tablet in her hands. She was the ship's expert on alien life and had been studying signals from deep space for weeks. Her face looked worried, and Jake could tell she'd found something important. "Captain, we are getting strange readings from the outer edge of our space," she said quietly. "Something big is moving toward Earth and our colonies. The computers say it's not natural, and it's not one of our ships." Jake took the tablet and looked at the data. The numbers showed massive objects moving faster than any human ship could go. There were dozens of them, and they were all heading straight for human territory. His heart started beating faster as he realized what this might mean. "How long until they reach our worlds?" he asked Lisa while calling for his communications officer, Tony Rodriguez, to come to the bridge. "Maybe 2 weeks if they keep moving at this speed," Lisa answered. "But Captain, these ships are huge. Much bigger than anything we have ever built. If these are aliens, then they have technology that is far ahead of ours." Tony arrived, and Jake showed him the readings. Tony was good with computers and alien signals, so Jake wanted his opinion. The young officer looked at the data for several minutes before shaking his head. "This is definitely not human technology, Captain. The energy patterns are completely different from our ships, and there are communication signals coming from these objects. They are talking to each other using some kind of language we have never heard before." Far away in space, the alien fleet moved steadily toward human worlds. The ships were dark and angular, with weapons that could destroy entire cities in minutes. Inside the largest ship, War Prime, Zektar studied the reports his scouts had been sending him about the humans. The Kethvar had been watching human worlds for months without being detected. They had learned the human language and studied their behavior through hidden cameras and listening devices. What they saw made Zektar confident that this would be an easy conquest. Humans spent their time taking care of old people who could not fight. They built schools for their children instead of training them to be warriors. When humans had disagreements, they tried to talk instead of fighting. Worst of all, the humans showed mercy to their enemies and tried to help species that were weaker than them. "These creatures are clearly prey animals," Zektar told his officers as they watched videos of humans helping injured animals and sharing food with poor people. "They waste their resources on the weak and refuse to fight when they should. They will surrender as soon as we show them our power." The Kethvar had conquered 47 worlds in the past century. Every time they found the same pattern. Strong species fought hard, but eventually gave up when they realized they could not win. Weak species usually surrendered right away to avoid being destroyed. The Kethvar always offered the same choice: serve the Empire or die, but humans seemed even weaker than most species the Kethvar had met before. Their military ships were small and few in number. Their weapons looked primitive compared to Kethvar technology. Most importantly, the humans seemed to care more about protecting others than about winning fights. "Send more probes to their major worlds," Zektar ordered his intelligence chief. "I want to know exactly how many ships they have and where they're. Weapons are stored, but be careful not to let them detect our scouts. I want this to be a complete surprise." Back on the New Horizon, Jake called a meeting with his senior officers. The ship's computer had been analyzing the alien signals for hours, and the results were not good. The aliens had technology that was at least 50 years ahead of human science, and their fleet was large enough to attack multiple worlds at the same time. "We need to warn Earth immediately," Jake told his crew. "These aliens might be peaceful, but we cannot take that chance." Tony, I want you to send a priority message to Fleet Command, telling them what we have found. Tony nodded and started working on the message while Lisa continued studying the alien ship designs. She had been comparing them to known alien technology from the database, but found no matches. These were completely new aliens, and humans had no idea what they wanted or how dangerous they might be. Captain, Lisa said suddenly, I think they have been watching us. Some of these signals look like surveillance data being sent between ships. They might already know about our colonies and our defenses. Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. If the aliens had been spying on humans, then they knew exactly how weak Earth's military really was. Most human ships were designed for exploration, not fighting. The colonies had only basic defenses, because humans had never found any hostile aliens before. The New Horizon changed course toward Earth at maximum speed, while Tony sent warning messages to every human world in the area. But Jake knew they might already be too late. The alien fleet was huge and well-armed, while human forces were scattered across dozens of worlds. As Jake watched the stars, he wondered if humanity was about to face its first real test against aliens who might not want to be friends. The peaceful exploration mission had suddenly become a race to warn Earth before the aliens arrived, and no one knew what the strange ships really wanted from the human race. The attack came at dawn on New Eden, just like War Prime Zektar had planned. 12 massive HFY warships dropped out of hyperspace above the peaceful farming colony and immediately began broadcasting surrender demands in perfect human language. The message was simple: give up now and become servants of the Empire, or be destroyed. Administrator Katie Phillips was having her morning coffee when the alien ships appeared in the sky above the capital city. She had been managing New Eden for 5 years and had never seen anything more dangerous than a broken farming robot. Now she was looking at ships that were larger than city blocks, hanging in the air like dark metal clouds. All residents must report to collection centers immediately, the alien voice said through every speaker and communication device on the planet. Resistance will result in the destruction of your settlements. You have 1 hour to comply with these orders. Katie ran to the emergency command center where her security chief, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Murphy, was already coordinating evacuation procedures. Steve was an older man who had served in Earth's military before retiring to New Eden, but he had never expected to face an actual alien invasion. How many people can we get off-world? Katie asked while watching the alien ships through the window. She could see smaller ships leaving the big ones and heading toward the surface. Her heart was pounding and her hands were shaking, but she knew she had to stay calm for her people. Not many, Steve replied grimly. We have 6 transport ships, but they can only carry about 3,000 people total. The colony has 40,000 residents, and most of them live too far from the spaceport to reach the ships in time. The first HFY landing craft touched down near the main agricultural center and began deploying troops. The aliens were tall and covered in thick armor that made them look like walking tanks. They carried weapons that glowed with blue energy and moved in perfect formation, like they had done this many times before. War Prime Zektar watched the invasion from his command ship and felt satisfied with how things were going. The humans were running around in panic, just like prey animals always did when predators arrived. Their small military force was already retreating toward the spaceport instead of trying to fight. Humans are even weaker than our intelligence reports suggested, he told his tactical officer. They are abandoning their settlements without even attempting to defend them. This world will be under our control within 6 hours. But Steve Murphy had other plans. He had spent 30 years in the human military and knew that sometimes the best way to fight a stronger enemy was to make them think you were running away. While the aliens focused on the main spaceport, he sent small teams of soldiers to hidden positions around the colony. "Remember, we are not trying to win a big battle," he told his troops over the radio network. "We just need to slow them down and make them pay for every meter they advance. Hit them hard, then disappear before they can shoot back." The first surprise came when a Kethvar patrol entered the abandoned mining facility outside the capital. Steve's soldiers had rigged the building with explosives and waited until the aliens were deep inside before detonating the charges. 20 Kethvar warriors died in the blast, and their commander realized that maybe humans were not going to be as easy to capture as expected. On Earth, General Patricia Walsh was receiving reports from colonies across human space. The aliens were attacking 12 worlds at the same time with overwhelming force. Most colony governors were asking for permission to surrender to save lives, but Patricia had different orders from the Global Defense Council. "Tell all colony commanders to fight as long as possible," she instructed her communications staff. "Every hour they can delay the aliens gives us more time to prepare a real response. The colonies are on their own for now, but help is coming." Patricia walked to a secure elevator that took her deep underground to a facility that officially did not exist. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for the possibility of hostile alien contact. The peaceful exploration ships and farming colonies were just the visible part of human civilization. The real military force had been hidden where no alien spy could find it. Back on New Eden, the Kethvar were discovering that humans could be more dangerous than they looked. A supply convoy was destroyed by soldiers who appeared out of nowhere, then vanished into the forest. A communication tower exploded just as alien technicians were trying to use it. Every building the Kethvar entered seemed to have traps waiting for them. "These humans fight like desperate animals," the tactical officer reported to War Prime Zektar. "They are using primitive tactics, but they know the terrain better than we do. Our casualties are higher than expected." Zektar was not worried. Yet, desperate prey always struggled harder when they were cornered. The humans had some basic military training, but they were clearly outmatched. Their weapons barely scratched Kethvar armor, and their ships were no match for the invasion fleet. "Continue the advance," he ordered. "Desperate resistance always collapses quickly once the prey realizes they cannot escape. Double the guard on our supply lines and burn any forest where the humans might be hiding." Katie Phillips and her staff were trapped in the command center as Kethvar forces surrounded the building. She could hear explosions outside as Steve's soldiers continued their hit and run attacks, but she knew they could not hold out much longer. The aliens had superior numbers and better equipment. "Ma'am, we are getting a message from Fleet Command," her communications officer announced suddenly. "It's coded Priority Alpha, which means emergency military response." Katie took the message. "Tablet and read the short text." Her eyes widened as she realized what she was reading. The message was from General Walsh herself, and it contained authorization codes that Katie had never seen before. "Implement Protocol 7 immediately." The message said, "All civilian authorities are now under military command. Prepare for Phase 2 operations. The real war begins now." Katie had no idea what Protocol 7 meant, but her communications officer clearly did. The young man's face went pale as he began entering commands into systems that Katie did not even know existed. Hidden transmitters activated across the colony and began broadcasting new orders to Steve's forces. The orders were simple: stop running and start hunting. The time for defensive operations was over. Humanity was about to show the Kethvar what they were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be helpless prey in orbit above New Eden. The first human warship decloaked behind one of the smaller Kethvar vessels. The ship was sleek and deadly, looking with weapons that had never appeared on any intelligence report. War Prime Zektar watched in shock as his ship exploded under a barrage of energy beams that cut through its armor. Like paper. Where did that ship come from? he demanded as more human vessels appeared around his fleet. Our scouts reported that humans had no military ships in this system, the invasion of New Eden suddenly became much more complicated as the aliens realized they were not fighting helpless colonists anymore. They were fighting an enemy that had been hiding its true strength and waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Captain Amy Richardson moved through the corridors of the HFY command ship like a shadow. Her Special Forces team had boarded the alien vessel during the chaos of the space battle, and now they were hunting the crew with deadly precision. The aliens had made a fatal mistake by assuming humans were weak, prey animals. Amy's training had been very different from the peaceful education most humans received. She was part of the secret military program that had been preparing for hostile alien contact for decades. While most humans learned farming and engineering, Amy had learned how to kill efficiently and silently. The first HFY guard never saw her coming. Amy appeared behind him and drove her combat knife between the plates of his armor before he could raise his weapon. The alien warrior dropped to the floor without making a sound while Amy dragged his body into a storage room. "Target eliminated," she whispered into her radio. Proceeding to the command deck. "Remember, we need their communications officer alive for interrogation." Her team moved deeper into the ship, using tactics that no peaceful species should have known. They had studied HFY ship designs from captured wreckage and knew exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Every door they passed was rigged with explosives that would prevent alien reinforcements from following them. On the planet below, Dr. Nathan Brooks was having an interesting conversation with captured HFY prisoners. The aliens were confused about why humans were fighting so effectively when their intelligence reports had shown them to be weak and peaceful. Nathan was about to explain the truth. "You made an error in your analysis of our species," Nathan told the alien commander through a translation device. "You observed our civilian population and assumed it represented all of humanity. But you never saw our real military forces because we made sure you could not find them." The HFY officer looked at Nathan with growing concern. The human's voice was calm and friendly, but there was something cold in his eyes that made the alien uncomfortable. This was not how prey animals were supposed to behave when talking to their captors. "Your species broadcasts messages about peace and cooperation," the alien said. "Your settlements have minimal defenses, and your people spend time caring for the weak instead of training for war. These are clearly the behaviors of prey animals, not predators." Nathan smiled and activated a holographic display that showed human military installations hidden throughout space. The HFY officer's eyes widened as he saw massive shipyards and weapons facilities that had been completely invisible to alien surveillance. Humanity had been preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful explorers. "We learned long ago that the galaxy considers aggressive species to be primitive and dangerous," Nathan explained. "So we created a false image of ourselves as harmless farmers and scientists. We wanted other species to underestimate us until we were ready to reveal our true capabilities." Sergeant Kelly Davis was leading urban combat operations in New Eden's capital city and showing the HFY exactly what human warfare really looked like. Her soldiers moved through the streets using techniques that turned the aliens' own strengths against them. Every attack was carefully planned to cause maximum psychological damage. Kelly's team had captured the alien communication center and was now broadcasting false orders that sent HFY units into carefully prepared ambushes. The aliens were strong and well armed, but they had never fought an enemy that understood psychological warfare at such a sophisticated level. "Unit 7, this is command," Kelly said into the captured alien radio using perfect HFY language. "Proceed to Sector 9 immediately. Human resistance has collapsed, and we need your unit for prisoner collection." The alien unit that responded to her false orders walked straight into a trap where Kelly's soldiers were waiting with heavy weapons. The Kethver warriors were cut down before they could return fire, and their equipment was quickly collected for use against their own forces. Dr. Carl Stone was finally able to reveal the weapons that humanity had been developing in secret research facilities across the solar system. The peaceful exploration ships had hidden scanning equipment that had been analyzing alien technology for years. Now human scientists could build weapons specifically designed to counter Kethver advantages. The new human weapons used quantum disruption fields that could punch through alien armor like it was made of paper. Adaptive artificial intelligence. Systems learned Kethver tactics in real time and developed countermeasures faster than the aliens could adapt. Most devastating of all were the biological warfare agents that targeted alien physiology without harming humans. We have been preparing for this war since we first detected alien radio signals 60 years ago, Carl explained to his research team as they loaded the new weapons onto human ships. Every peaceful contact mission was also intelligence gathering. Operation. We know more about alien technology than they realize. War Prime Zektar was beginning to understand that his invasion was not going according to plan. Human forces were demonstrating capabilities that should not have existed. Their tactics were sophisticated, and their weapons were surprisingly effective against Kethver defenses. How could our intelligence reports be so wrong? He demanded from his surviving officers. Humans are supposed to be a peaceful species with minimal military capabilities. They should have surrendered by now, instead of fighting harder than most warrior races we have encountered. The tactical display showed Kethver losses mounting across all 12 invaded worlds. Human resistance was not weakening as expected, but growing stronger as more mysterious military units appeared from nowhere. The aliens were facing an enemy that seemed to have been planning for this exact conflict for decades. Captain Amy Richardson reached the command deck of the Kethvar ship and eliminated the bridge crew with ruthless efficiency. Her team secured the ship's computer systems and began downloading intelligence data about alien military capabilities and future invasion plans. "Command, this is Richardson," she reported back to headquarters. "Target secured and intelligence package acquired. Recommend we proceed to Phase 3 operations immediately." The captured alien communications officer was forced to send false reports back to the main Kethver fleet. The messages claimed that human resistance was weakening and that reinforcements were not needed. This gave human forces more time to position their hidden fleets for the next phase of the war. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Murphy coordinated the final assault on New Eden's alien occupation force. His soldiers had been joined by mysterious units that seemed to appear out of thin air with equipment that was far more advanced than anything civilians should have possessed. "All units, this is Murphy," he broadcast to his expanded force. "Execute Operation Apex Hunter. Let's show these aliens what humans are really capable of when we stop playing games." The attack that followed was unlike anything the Kethver had experienced in their centuries of conquest. Human forces moved with the coordination of pack hunters surrounding wounded prey. Every alien position was attacked simultaneously from multiple directions by soldiers who seemed to know exactly where the enemy would try to retreat. War Prime Zektar watched his forces being systematically destroyed on New Eden and realized that he had made a terrible mistake. These were not the peaceful farmers his scouts had reported. These were predators who had been hiding their true nature until the moment they chose to strike. "Send reinforcements to all invaded worlds immediately," he ordered his fleet commanders. "We are not fighting prey animals. We are fighting something much more dangerous, and we may have awakened a predator that was content to remain hidden until we forced it to reveal itself." Captain Ryan Mitchell studied the tactical display showing Titan's surface as his assault ships approached the moon. The Kethver had turned Saturn's largest moon into a heavily fortified stronghold, but they had made their defensive plans based on fighting normal alien species. They had no idea they were about to face humanity's true military doctrine. Ryan's ships were part of a fleet that had been hidden in the outer solar system for 30 years, waiting for this exact situation. The vessels looked nothing like the peaceful exploration ships that aliens had been observing. These were predator ships built for one purpose: hunting and destroying enemy forces with maximum efficiency. "All units, this is Mitchell," he broadcast to his assault force. "Remember, the aliens chose this fight, and now they get to learn what human warfare really looks like. Execute Pattern Omega and show them why Earth evolved apex predators." The attack on Titan began with electronic warfare that shut down every HFY communication system on the moon. The aliens found themselves blind and deaf as human ships emerged from behind Saturn's rings like wolves appearing from tall grass. The assault had been planned using intelligence gathered from 50 years of secret surveillance. Admiral Nicole Foster commanded the human fleet from the bridge of Earth's Fury, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything the HFY had detected during their reconnaissance. The ship had been built in hidden shipyards, using technology that humanity had been developing since the first alien radio signals were intercepted decades ago. "Weapons free on all targets," Nicole ordered as her fleet moved into attack formation. "These aliens wanted a war, so let's give them one they will never forget. Show them what happens when predators stop pretending to be prey." The space battle around Titan was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Human ships moved with the coordination of pack hunters, using tactics that the HFY had never seen before. Every alien defensive position was attacked from multiple angles simultaneously, while human forces maintained perfect communication and coordination. Dr. Lavra King was conducting interrogations of captured HFY officers in a secure facility. On Earth, the aliens were confused and terrified by what they had witnessed during the fighting. Lavra was about to explain to them exactly what they had gotten themselves into by attacking humanity. "Your species made a fundamental error in understanding what humans really are," Lavra told the captured alien commander. "You saw our compassion and cooperation and assumed we were weak prey animals. But those traits evolved for a very different reason than you think." The alien officer listened with growing horror as Lavra explained human evolutionary history. She described how early humans had survived ice ages and predator competition, not through individual strength, but through pack hunting and persistence. Humans were the ultimate cooperative predators. "We are persistence hunters," Lavra continued. "Our ancestors would track mammoth herds for weeks, never giving up, never stopping, until the prey was exhausted and helpless. We evolved to work together, to solve problems, and to never quit once we have selected a target." The alien's face showed fear as he began to understand what his species had done. They had not attacked a peaceful farming civilization. They had attacked a planet full of apex predators who had been patiently waiting for someone to threaten their territory. Major Chris Thompson led the ground assault to retake New Eden using tactics that demonstrated how thoroughly humanity had studied HFY combat doctrine. His soldiers moved through the occupied city like they had been planning this exact battle for years. Every alien strongpoint was attacked using methods specifically designed to counter HFY advantages. "Remember, these aliens studied us for months before attacking," Chris told his troops as they prepared for the final assault. "They think they know how we fight, but they only saw what we wanted them to see. Time to show them what human soldiers really look like when we stop holding back." The battle for New Eden's capital became a masterclass in human military tactics. Chris's forces used urban warfare techniques that turned the city itself into a weapon against the occupying aliens. Every building became a potential ambush site, and every street became a killing zone. The HFY defenders found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Human forces attacked from directions that should have been impossible using routes that the aliens had not known existed. The city's civilian infrastructure had been secretly modified years ago to serve as a military advantage if needed. War Prime. Zektar received reports from his commanders across all the invaded worlds and realized that his forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had completely underestimated. The humans were not fighting like desperate prey animals anymore. They were fighting like apex predators who had been challenged in their own territory. How could our intelligence be so completely wrong? He demanded from his surviving officers. Humans demonstrated all the classic behaviors of prey species. They avoid conflict, they show mercy to enemies, and they waste resources caring for the weak. His intelligence chief looked terrified as he delivered the latest analysis of human capabilities. The aliens had been observing humanity for months, but they had only seen what humans wanted them to see. The real military forces had been completely hidden from alien surveillance. War Prime, it appears that human compassion and cooperation are not signs of weakness, the officer reported nervously. They are advanced social adaptations that allow humans to coordinate large military operations more effectively than any species we have encountered. The reports from Titan showed that human forces had completely overrun the HFY stronghold in less than 6 hours. Admiral Foster's fleet had demonstrated weapons technology that was at least 50 years ahead of what alien intelligence had detected. The humans had been deliberately showing inferior technology to make themselves appear less threatening. Captain Ryan Mitchell walked through the captured HFY command center on Titan and studied the alien military manuals and tactical procedures. The documents revealed that the HFY had conquered 47 worlds using the same basic strategy. Every time. They had never adapted their methods because they had never needed to. These aliens are one-trick predators, Ryan reported to headquarters. They are strong and well-armed, but they have never fought an enemy that could learn and adapt faster than they could. They keep using the same tactics, even when those tactics are not working. The human assault on Titan had been designed to exploit every weakness in HFY military doctrine. While the aliens relied on individual strength and superior firepower, humans used coordination and adaptability. Every time the HFY tried a new defensive tactic, human forces had already developed 3 different countermeasures. Dr. Lara King continued her explanation to the captured alien commander about what his species had really attacked. She showed him recordings of human military training that demonstrated capabilities the HFY had never suspected existed. We have been preparing for hostile alien contact since we first detected your radio transmissions decades ago, Lara explained. Every peaceful exploration mission was also an intelligence gathering operation. We know more about your military capabilities than you know about ours. The alien watched in horror as the recordings showed human soldiers training to fight in every possible environment, using weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter alien advantages. The humans had been studying galactic warfare for 50 years while pretending to be harmless farmers and scientists. Your species' greatest strength is also your greatest weakness, Lavra told the terrified alien. You are excellent at fighting other warrior species that rely on strength and aggression. But you have never encountered persistence hunters who use patience and coordination instead of brute force. War Prime Zektar made the decision to retreat from all human worlds as his losses mounted beyond acceptable levels. His invasion force had been reduced by 60% in less than a week, and human resistance was growing stronger instead of weaker. The reports from his commanders all told the same story. They were fighting an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. Signal all fleet commanders to begin immediate withdrawal, he ordered reluctantly. We are not fighting prey animals. We are fighting the galaxy's ultimate predator species, and we have made the mistake of attacking them in their own territory. Commander Pete Harrison tracked the retreating Kethver fleet through hyperspace using sensors that the aliens did not know existed. His long-range reconnaissance ships had been following alien movements for years, while disguised as simple cargo vessels. Now the hunt could begin in earnest, and humanity would show the galaxy what persistence predators really meant. Target fleet is maintaining course toward the Zarian system, Pete reported to Fleet Command. They appear to be regrouping with their reserve forces, but our intelligence suggests they are planning another attack. Recommend we intercept them before they can organize a counteroffensive. The human pursuit fleet consisted of ships that had never appeared on any public registry. These vessels had been built in secret shipyards hidden throughout the outer solar system and equipped with technology that alien spies had never detected. Each ship was designed for one purpose: hunting enemy forces across vast distances without being seen. Captain Sandra Bell commanded a strike force that was conducting hit-and-run attacks on Kethver supply lines across 3 different star systems. Her ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed alien convoys, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The tactics were based on how wolf packs hunted migrating herds across ancient Earth. Remember, we are not trying to destroy their entire fleet in one battle, Sandra told her squadron leaders. We are wearing them down, making them use supplies and ammunition while staying out of reach. Let them exhaust themselves chasing shadows while we pick off stragglers. Sandra's forces had been tracking Keth for shipping routes for months, using merchant vessels that were actually intelligence gathering platforms. The aliens had never suspected that innocent-looking human cargo ships were mapping their entire logistics network and identifying critical supply points. Dr. Greg Adams activated sleeper agents throughout Kethver territory who had been living undercover as researchers and diplomats for years. These agents had been placed long before the invasion began as part of humanity's long-term preparation for possible hostile contact with alien species. Phoenix Network, this is Control. Greg broadcast on a frequency that alien intelligence agencies did not know existed. Execute Protocol Midnight immediately. All assets are authorized for maximum disruption operations. The message activated human agents on dozens of worlds throughout Kethver space. Scientists who had been studying alien technology for years suddenly became saboteurs, destroying critical infrastructure. Diplomats who had been building relationships with alien officials began feeding false information to military commanders. Agent Maria Santos had been working as a xenobiologist on the Kethver homeworld for 3 years before the invasion began. Her research into alien agriculture had given her access to food production facilities that fed billions of Kethver citizens. Now she was about to show the aliens what happened when they threatened humanity. Maria introduced modified bacteria into the alien food supply that would not harm the Kethver, but would make their military rations spoil quickly. Enemy forces throughout the galaxy would soon discover that their supplies were becoming unreliable just when they needed them most during the war. The aliens attempted to make a defensive stand at the fortress world of Keth Prime, where their most powerful military installations were located. The planet's defenses had been designed to withstand attacks from conventional alien fleets, but the Kethvar had never fought an enemy that understood siege warfare the way humans did. Colonel Rachel Smith led the orbital bombardment of Keth, using tactics that combined traditional siege methods with advanced space warfare technology. Her fleet surrounded the planet and began systematically destroying everything that could support the enemy war effort while avoiding civilian targets. Target their military shipyards first, then move to communications and supply depots, Rachel ordered her fleet commanders. We want to leave their population intact, but make it impossible for them to continue fighting. Show them that we can take apart their entire military infrastructure piece by piece. Major Dan Roberts commanded ground forces that had been secretly landed on Keth, weeks before the main assault began. His soldiers had been hiding in the planet's wilderness, studying alien defensive positions and preparing for the moment when they would strike from within. "Remember, the aliens think we are still light years away," Dan told his troops as they prepared for their assault. "They have no idea we have been on their homeworld for weeks. Use that surprise to maximum advantage, and remember we need their command staff alive for intelligence purposes." Dan's forces attacked every major military installation on Keth Prime, simultaneously using detailed intelligence that had been gathered over months of surveillance. The aliens found themselves fighting enemies who knew their defenses better than they did, and who struck at exactly the right moments to cause maximum disruption. War Prime. Sektar watched his homeworld being systematically dismantled by human forces and finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. The aliens had not simply attacked a peaceful species. They had challenged predators who had been preparing for this exact type of conflict for decades. "How did human forces reach our homeworld without being detected?" he demanded from his intelligence staff. "Our sensors show no human ships in this system until the attack began. They could not have traveled here faster than our own fleet." The terrifying answer came from captured human equipment that showed the humans had been using quantum tunneling technology to move ships instantly across vast distances. Humanity had been decades ahead of Kethvar science while pretending to be a primitive species that had barely mastered space travel. Agent Robert Kim had been serving as a cultural liaison on the Kethvar Military Command Station for 2 years. Before the war started, his job had been to help alien commanders understand human psychology and behavior. Now he was feeding them false information that led their fleets into carefully prepared ambushes. "Human forces are concentrated in the Sol system defending Earth," Robert reported to his alien supervisors. "They do not have the capability to project power across interstellar distances. Your fleets can safely regroup in the outer territories without fear of human pursuit." The false intelligence led 3 Kethvar battle groups directly into a trap where human forces were waiting with overwhelming firepower. The aliens lost dozens of ships and thousands of soldiers because they trusted an enemy agent who had been manipulating them for years. Commander Pete Harrison's reconnaissance fleet had been tracking the retreating Kethvar forces for weeks and building a complete picture of alien capabilities and intentions. The data showed that the aliens were planning a massive counterattack using reserve forces from throughout their empire. "Command, this is Harrison," he reported to fleet headquarters. "Enemy is concentrating approximately 200 ships in the Nexus system for final assault on human space. Recommend we intercept them during their approach phase when they are stretched out in formation and vulnerable to attack." The human response was swift and decisive. Admiral Nicole Foster's main battle fleet emerged from hyperspace directly in the path of the approaching Kethvar armada. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that had been tracking their every movement and preparing the perfect ambush. "All ships, this is Foster," the Admiral broadcast to her fleet. "These aliens wanted to hunt humanity, but they made one critical error. They assumed we were prey when we are actually the apex predators of this galaxy. Show them what that means." The space battle that followed demonstrated every aspect of human persistence hunting adapted for interstellar warfare. Human ships worked in perfect coordination, surrounding and isolating individual alien vessels before destroying them methodically. The Kethvar found themselves being hunted by an enemy that never gave up and never made the same mistake twice. War Prime Zektar realized that his species had awakened something terrible by attacking humanity. The humans were not content to simply defend their territory. They were hunting the Kethvar across the galaxy with the same relentless determination that their ancestors had used to track prey, animals across ancient Earth. Admiral Jack Williams stood on the bridge of the Terran Hunter as his fleet approached the Kethvar home system for the final confrontation. A massive human armada had been hunting the retreating alien forces across half the galaxy, and now the chase was finally coming to an end. The name of his flagship was no accident. It was time for the aliens to understand exactly what they had awakened. "All fleet commanders, this is Williams," he broadcast to the 200 human warships under his command. "The Kethver chose to hunt humanity, thinking we were easy prey. Now they get to learn what happens when real predators decide to hunt back. Execute final protocol and show them why Earth evolved apex predators." The Kethver home system was heavily defended with orbital fortresses and minefields that had protected their homeworld for centuries. But the aliens had designed their defenses to fight other warrior species that relied on direct assault tactics. They had never faced an enemy that understood patience and systematic destruction. Captain Mary Johnson led fighter squadrons that demonstrated pack hunting tactics adapted for space combat. Her pilots worked in coordinated groups surrounding and isolating individual Kethver ships before attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy that fought like wolves, bringing down much larger prey. Gold Squadron form up on the wounded cruiser. Mary ordered her pilots as they stalked a damaged Kethver warship. Silver and Bronze take flanking positions and wait for my signal. We take this target down together, just like our ancestors used to hunt mammoths on the ancient plains. Mary's fighters moved with deadly precision, herding the alien ship away from its support vessels before closing in for the kill. The Kethver captain tried to reach friendly forces, but human pilots cut off every escape route with the skill of predators who had been practicing pack coordination for millions of years. Dr. Helen Ross broadcast a message to the Kethver fleet, explaining the evolutionary history that had shaped humanity into the ultimate persistence hunters. Her words were transmitted on every alien communication frequency, so that every enemy soldier would understand what they were really fighting. "You studied our species for months, but you only saw what we wanted you to see," Helen told the alien fleet. "You observed our compassion and cooperation and mistook those traits for weakness. But you never understood that these are the adaptations that made us the most successful predators in galactic history." Helen's broadcast included holographic displays showing human evolutionary development from early hunters to spacefaring civilization. The aliens watched in growing horror as they realized that every trait they had thought made humans weak was actually an advantage that helped them hunt more effectively. "We survived ice ages and predator competition, not through individual strength, but through pack hunting and never giving up," Helen continued. "Our ancestors would track herds of giant animals for weeks or months, never stopping, never resting until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. That is what we are doing to you now." War Prime Zektar listened to the human broadcast from his command ship and finally understood the full magnitude of his species' error. The Kethver had been proud of their conquests and their warrior culture, but they had never faced an enemy that treated warfare as problem-solving rather than glory-seeking. "How could we have been so blind?" he asked his tactical officer as human forces systematically dismantled their defensive positions. "These creatures are not warriors in any sense we understand. They are hunters, and we have become their prey." The space battle around the Kethver homeworld lasted for 18 hours and demonstrated every aspect of human predatory behavior adapted for interstellar warfare. Human commanders showed infinite patience, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They demonstrated intelligence by exploiting every weakness in alien defenses. Most importantly, they showed the relentless determination to see the hunt through to its conclusion. Commander Bill Thompson coordinated the final assault on the remaining Kethver forces with the methodical precision of a persistence hunter running down exhausted prey. His ships moved in perfect formation, surrounding the enemy fleet and cutting off every possible escape route. "Remember, we are not trying to destroy them completely," Bill reminded his squadron leaders. "We want surrender, not extinction." The strongest. Predators know when to stop hunting and when to establish dominance without unnecessary killing. The human approach to the final battle confused the HFY, who expected either total destruction or glorious combat. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that fought with calculated restraint, using exactly enough force to achieve victory while avoiding unnecessary casualties on both sides. War Prime Zektar made the decision that no HFY commander had ever made before in their species' history. Faced with an enemy that had demonstrated complete tactical superiority and the ability to destroy his entire fleet, he chose to surrender rather than fight to the death. "Human fleet, this is War Prime Zektar of the HFY Dominion," he broadcast. "On all frequencies, I acknowledge your species as the superior predator and formally surrender all forces under my command. We request terms that will allow both our species to survive this conflict." Admiral Williams accepted the alien surrender, but made it clear that humanity would dictate the terms of peace. The humans had not started this war, but they would definitely finish it in a way that ensured no other species would ever make the mistake of attacking Earth again. "War Prime Zektar, your species attacked humanity thinking we were easy prey," Williams replied. "You have learned that we are actually apex predators, who were content to remain hidden until you forced us to reveal our true nature. The terms of surrender will reflect this new understanding." Dr. Helen Ross continued her broadcast to alien forces throughout the galaxy, explaining what the HFY defeat meant for other species who might be considering hostile action against humanity. The message was clear. Earth's inhabitants were not the peaceful farmers they appeared to be. "The galaxy now knows what humanity really is," Helen announced. "We are persistence hunters who evolved to track prey across vast distances using cooperation and intelligence rather than brute strength. We prefer peace, but we are supremely adapted for war when peace becomes impossible." The peace negotiations took place aboard the Terran Hunter, where War Prime Zektar finally met his human counterparts face to face. The alien commander was surprised to find that the humans who had defeated his forces were polite and reasonable despite having every right to demand harsh terms. "Your species shows mercy even to enemies who attacked without provocation," Zektar observed as the treaty was finalized. "This confirms that you truly are apex predators. Only the most successful hunters can afford to show restraint when they have achieved complete dominance." Commander Bill Thompson oversaw the establishment of peace terms that reflected humanity's true nature as apex predators who preferred to control territory rather than destroy it. The HFY would be allowed to keep their worlds, but they would serve as a warning to other species about what happened when someone made the mistake of hunting humans. "The strongest predators do not need to kill everything they encounter," Bill explained to the alien negotiators. "They establish dominance and maintain control through the threat of what they could do, rather than constantly proving their strength through violence." The war's end brought a fundamental change in how the galaxy viewed humanity. Other alien civilizations that had been observing the conflict realized that Earth's inhabitants were not the weak prey species they had appeared to be. The humans had been hiding their true nature until someone was foolish enough to threaten them. News of humanity's victory spread throughout galactic civilization and established Earth as the acknowledged apex predator species. Other races began to reconsider their relationships with humans, understanding that they shared the galaxy with persistence hunters who had evolved to be the ultimate cooperative predators. The final scene showed human patrol ships maintaining peace throughout the galaxy's trade routes. The vessels carried names like Persistent Hunter and Patient Stalker that announced to every species what they represented. Humanity had emerged from hiding and claimed their place as the apex predators of known space. War Prime Zektar returned to his homeworld and established new military doctrines based on what his species had learned about human warfare. The Kethver would never again make the mistake of assuming that peaceful behavior indicated weakness. They had learned that the most dangerous predators were often the ones that appeared harmless until they decided to hunt.